The thoughts, views, and comments expressed by Sidebar, its guests, callers, and advisors are not necessarily those of the management, ownership, or production unit of ILS Verizon Media Group. Sidebar, a 103.5 The Beat podcast, is a production of ILTV Studios and may not be reproduced or represented, in part or in its entirety, without the express written consent of Verizon Media Group. Sidebar is the intellectual property of Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2024. All rights reserved.
Welcome to Sidebar, 103 The Beat podcast, powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna. Today we're going to go down a rabbit hole. Now, I would love to rant about the union and stuff, and I think we'll get there, but I want to start elsewhere first. By now, because of the laziness of the news media in the country, you probably witnessed the Pride Parade. I'm not going to get drawn into saying the entire alphabet, but you know all the letters. Anyway, if you watched Bahamian news, you certainly saw the Pride Parade. All right? But you also probably saw that there was only like 20 people out there. Honestly, had the news not shown up, you probably would have driven past them and just been like, oh, is this group of people walking together? What is this? You know, because I've seen more people at a 5 a.m. boot camp. Now, I'm not saying that to deride them. I'm just saying that there's no way that anybody who is in their right mind, any right-thinking individual, would have seen these people as a threat. They would have seen this handful of people in the road and say, is this a car wash fundraiser? And then continue driving on. In my mind, that's what a right-thinking person would have done. However, two small women-led churches decided to have a counter-protest. And it is important that I mention that they are women-led churches because that's part of the theme. The theme isn't going to be gender, so don't panic. I see these women-led churches on television saying that they are against the agenda of the LGBT community. All right, okay. So they're there to counter-protest. Well, not counter-protest because the handful of LGBT activists, they weren't really protesting. The first one was a march, but these women are here as a counter-protest to the Pride Parade. All right. The problem is I'm trying to figure out the right way to say this. The problem for me is that I don't feel like they just came out and said why they were actually there. They said that they were against the agenda, but what was the stated agenda of the Pride Parade? The people who were doing the Pride Parade said their agenda was to not, their agenda was not to promote homosexuality. Their agenda was human rights for all, for gay people, for women, for poor people, for immigrants. That's why they were there. They were just there to bring attention to the need for human rights for all. Is that the agenda that they were against? Do they not feel that every human being deserves to have human rights? Because, I mean, if that is so, that is a very weird thing to say. And in my head, honestly, it would be way easier to accept, and it'd make more sense. It'd be more palatable. They might actually get more people behind them if those two women pastors just said, we here because we don't like gay people. Like if they say, we think sissy people is wrong. We think sissy and wrong, it shouldn't be here. I think that had they said that, it would have been more palatable because the words would have been more coherent. Their messaging would have been more forthright and, to some extent, in my opinion, honest. Like, how do you say you're against the agenda of an organization, when the organization says our agenda is the rights for everybody, including the people who are protesting against us. That doesn't make sense to me. Now, of course, I could be wrong, and maybe I just don't understand it. But it still makes me question, what are you protesting? Because then clearly you didn't listen to what they said the agenda was. And the truth is, I think sometimes persons just don't want people to think that they discriminate. And they're like, oh, I don't want them to think that I'm against these set of people. So it's whatever. Some of you who are listening right now are going to be like, well, they standing up because gayness is evil, because the Bible says gayness is evil. And I'm not going to sit here and argue with your interpretation of the Holy Scripture. What I do want to point out is the hypocrisy of women pastors, women leaders of the church standing up and protesting anything based on a surface level reading of the scriptures. Because there are probably as many scriptures that people read as homosexuality is wrong as there are scriptures that say woman ain't supposed to be leading man. Not in church. Woman ain't supposed to be talking in church. Women, if you hold the Bible to be the inspired word of God, and if you hold the Bible to be inerrant, and it doesn't need correction, it is solely for correction, and you are living 100% Bible truth, then Paul says that a woman, when she has a question in church, she's supposed to go home and ask her husband. Don't even ask in church. Wait till you get home and then ask your husband. So then, how are you a woman pastor? And I'm not hearkening back to like the dark ages or something. This isn't something that's 100 years old or 400 years old or 600 years old. I'm talking about something that is so recent, it is part of the reason that the Anglican Church may encounter a schism. You know that women couldn't be priests until March 12th, 1994 in the Anglican Church? Do you guys remember when Reverend Angela Palacios became an ordained priest in the year 2000? You remember how big a deal that was? Matter of fact, it was such a big deal. It's part of the reason that I know all these scriptures about why women ain't supposed to be pastors and that women ain't supposed to be preaching. It's because when I was a child, for years, people would preach about just that. People would say a woman being a pastor is wrong and it's impossible and it should never happen. And that any woman who started a church, the church is going to fall apart. And people would preach about this for years on the radio. Every Sunday morning, you would hear it on the television. Pastors preaching against women being able to hold leadership authority within inside the church. It's not a thing. It's not supposed to happen. That was the 90s. That was the 2000s. People are still preaching that to this day. But the truth is, if you're able to look at that and you're able to negotiate a path for women to be pastors, for women to be deacons, for women to be bishops, the natural progression will be that you start to interrogate all of the scripture in the Bible. So there is a level of hypocrisy when you could stop when you get something that you want, but you forget all the other people who are in the position that you were in but 20 years ago. Because we allow silly things to divide us. It's not like these people are out there protesting, please let us be a part of the church. It's not like they are protesting and demanding that you have homosexual ceremonies inside the church. They're not saying that. They're saying they want to exist outside the church. I don't think there should be any question about that because that's outside of your purview. And yet you are attempting to hold them to a standard that you yourself cannot meet, because if you met that standard, you wouldn't be able to call yourselves pastors. So why and how are you so bold to say, yeah, man, this shouldn't exist? And we are here to protest that, whatever it is. It's because you're allowing propaganda that is external to this country to come within this country and divide us within this country. If you would listen to their agenda was for your rights. Those people out there would fight for you, and you would want them to disappear. How often do we find ourselves fighting against our own self-interest? We're divided into quadrants, small enough little subsects so that we can easily be conquered with ridiculous ideas that stop us from progressing. Because if you follow this plan, honestly and truthfully, follow it all the way down the road, it will lead to women shouldn't be pastors. And then it's only a couple steps back to women. You can't go to the doctor by yourself. You need a male to accompany you. Either you need to come with your daddy or your uncle or your older brother or your husband. And then from there, it's half a step back. Why do women have bank accounts? And then we're going to take another step back. Vote, own business, hold property. Woman can't hold property. Woman is property. That's the reasoning once we start to take away human rights from people who we don't agree with, who live a little different life than us. That doesn't make sense. You're fighting against your own self-interest. Anyway, that's what we're going to talk about today. How we let superficial, stupid things divide us. And I'm not going to be talking about the LGBT community. There are other shows on this network that do that every single day. And I'm not going to be talking about those two women pastors anymore. Maybe I didn't understand what their complaint was. But I do want to say, it doesn't make sense. We must not let ourselves be divided. This is Sidebar, 103 The Beat podcast, powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna. We'll be right back.
7.5 years, but I walk in here all of a sudden, total stranger. I'm calling you Rick and Sheila.
I win. At Island Lock, we take sports seriously. Get ready to experience the thrill of winning anytime and any place. Bet in real time and live the thrill of every play while watching your winnings stack up. It's your chance to score big with fast payouts and a world-class experience. Get in the game and bet the Bahamian way with Island Lock Sportsbook.
Welcome back to Sidebar, 103 The Beat podcast, powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna. You need mass political action to reorganize society. I borrowed that from an article by Ben Burgess. It sounds very convoluted. It's not. Now, we're often tempted when we hear the word political to think only of a gamified version of politics. And that's like, oh, this side is my team and I want my team to win, and this side is the other team and I want them to lose no matter what. And my team is the best team, without looking at any policies or plans. And the gamified version of politics is not the helpful politics. That's not. So when people say that they are a lifelong career politician, that version is not the version that they should be aspiring to. The version they should be aspiring to is something more of an activist, right? The only way to make any significant change in society, you need mass political action. You need everybody to say, hey, this is a problem. We need this problem corrected. And to focus on that and organizing around that. And it's through this organization, which essentially is just community, that we see any real change happening. The reason why it annoys me for us to be divided constantly over and over and over by dumb things that are superficial or that do not impact anybody in any way, shape, or form in the grand scheme of things is because for some reason they don't want us to get along. And I don't understand why. They want us to hate each other. And it doesn't make sense. I mean, on one hand, it does make sense that there is an evil agenda out there where, for example, if men and women aren't getting along, they're not pooling their resources together. And then it's going to take you longer to secure basic things like a house. You got to buy 2 and 3 cars. And we're all going to remain indentured slaves to the system longer, if not forever, because we didn't work together. So if I have a girlfriend, me and her, we're able to form a unit together and combine our families. Because I get married to her, she get married to me, therefore our families are combined, and we now all on one accord. And because she's from a family that trusts each other and do good things and don't stab each other in the back, and I'm from a family that trusts each other and do good things and don't stab each other in the back, now we got 2 families joined together as one family. And now we have the economic power, and I'm not saying that every single dollar will go into one unified project, but we do have a level of economic power. We also have political power. Because if all of us are on the same page, then we can say, this is what we want to happen, even if we don't have the funds necessarily to make that happen. We can make these demands and say, if this doesn't happen, then we are not doing this. Or this is going to happen in response to this. Because there's enough of us. Because let's say 50 of us, 100 of us, all consolidated in this space, suddenly we have a different voice than just my one individual voice. And that's why they don't want us to be on the same page. That's the thing that they are afraid of. That's why they want us all to be individuals. You want to know what political organization looks like? Because I think that, once again, we are tempted to believe that it is solely you have to start a political party. A Junkanoo group is a political organization. You got all these people in the shack, and some of them PLP, some of them F&M, some of them COI, some of them might be secretly CDR members. But at the end of the day, they're all from the same community, and they say, we need X, Y, and Z to happen. Someone who is not for X, Y, and Z can't come to our community and say, oh, well, that sounds ridiculous. But if you have a small group with 100 people in it, ready to move and organize and do whatever it takes, that is political power. That's power. That allows you to say, for example, because I think you're still thinking of a Junkanoo group as nothing more than music. A Junkanoo group can wake up tomorrow and say, let's go raise money to help this person out because their husband died, their son died, their mother died, their brother died, their sister died, whoever in the community died. Let's have a rush out. Let's have a cookout. That is political power. That's what they don't want us to have. The reason why it is important for them to divide us, and I know it doesn't seem like a big deal to you, but even something as simple as your TikTok algorithm being different from my TikTok algorithm is so that I am indoctrinated by opposing ideas than you. Those little things divide us. And the sad thing is, it doesn't even serve the villains that we live with. It serves villains that are not even in this country. But it is that division that is making us weaker as a people to the point that we cannot stand up for our own rights. We don't even know when our rights are being stripped from us. Now, I'm not suggesting aggression. I'm not suggesting going on the offense. As a matter of fact, I am suggesting purely defense. Presently, we don't have the capability and the ability to look at ourselves and say the Bahamas is great. We are great. We are a wonderful country. We still look at ourselves as inferior. And we can complain about it. And you can say, oh, Stephen, you're wrong. But we do accept when somebody brings somebody else from another country that it must be a really good idea that they brought them down here for. We do accept that we love our own people more when they get an award from outside of this country. If I told you this week that I've been nominated for an Emmy Award, you'd be like, oh, really? Stephen got an Emmy? Oh, Stephen got an Emmy nomination. That's great. Wow. Stephen's doing wonderful for himself. He should be respected. He should get paid. And then suddenly, because I got an Emmy, you're going to start thinking, well, people who get Emmys, they get like $1 million per episode. So if Stephen asks me for $10,000 an episode, that's not a crazy idea. If Stephen asks for $100,000 to put on a show, that's not so bad a price. How and why are you so gung-ho to give me the money? Because outsiders told you that I'm good. The money always existed. I always existed. Nothing's actually changed. But because somebody outside of this country validated me, you're going to say yes. It's because you don't rate yourself. And if you don't rate yourself, you can't rate me. And it's the division, because even if we have the power to secure ourselves, to make ourselves better, to do right things for ourselves, it will never happen because we are so far apart from each other that we can't even have the conversation to say, you know what? You are worth more than this. We need mass political action to reorganize society. We need mass political action to reorganize the society. This is Sidebar 103 to Be podcast, powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Paradise Premium Foods, where exceptional taste meets everyday convenience. Right in the heart of Hurricane Hole Plaza, whether you're planning a beachside brunch, an intimate dinner, or simply restocking your favorites, we offer only the finest selection of local and imported goods, handpicked for quality, freshness, and flavor. At Paradise Premium Foods, shopping is effortless, service is personal, and every visit feels like a treat. From gourmet meals to go to organic essentials and indulgent treats, this is your neighborhood market elevated. Live well, eat better. Discover Paradise Premium Foods, now open at Hurricane Hole Plaza, Paradise Island. Paradise Premium Foods. Taste the difference.
Edenwell has expanded their testing menu. We now offer blood work, drug screening, and so much more. Our hours of operation are Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., located on 11 Madera Street. We are here for all of your laboratory needs, with fast and reliable lab work done by our friendly and knowledgeable staff. Let us help you take the needed steps to stay in the know about your health. Let's keep working towards a healthier you. Stay eatin' well.
Welcome back to Sidebar 103 to Be podcast powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna. There's several things that we've been tricked about, and one of them is we've been tricked into thinking that the individual is not important when it comes to us. But it's very important when it comes to the people who are a part of the system holding us down. Let me give you a very simple example. You watch television shows, you watch movies, you read books, I assume. Oftentimes, we have the thought experiment, the philosophical thought. If you could go back in time and kill baby Hitler, would you kill baby Hitler? The problem with this is that we've bought into the idea that all of the evils and the atrocities that happened in World War II rest squarely and solely on the shoulders of Adolf Hitler. But they don't. World War II would have happened with or without Hitler, because all of the issues and the strife and the reasoning and the little pieces, they were always bubbling underneath the surface. The anti-Semitism, the homophobia, the transphobia, the xenophobia, all of the phobias already existed. Hitler didn't come up with the Nazi Party. Hitler wasn't the founder of the Nazi Party. He wasn't even one of the founding members of the Nazi Party. The Nazi Party existed before Hitler got out of prison. Hitler did have a level of charisma. He was at the right nexus of sounding a certain way, like authoritative, but also being charismatic and able to speak the language to bring in that lowest common denominator. So Hitler was a part of the problem. He played a part. And this is in no way vindicating him and the part he played, because he played a part. But he was not the end-all, be-all. He was not the machine. He was a figurehead. Hitler didn't come up with the atrocities. He was not the architect of the Holocaust. It was not his big plan. He presented the final solution, but there were people who were charged with crimes that happened inside those individual concentration camps. It was a political movement. It was a group of people having this idea. And now, because we believe that the individual, when it comes to certain things, is so important, we've been tricked into thinking that. We think that if one had a time machine and was able to remove Hitler from the circumstances, then suddenly, poof, all of the problems would go away. Well, they don't. What we had there is a situation of Eurocentric ideals and ideologies where World War I was a failure, Germany failed, and then the second issue is, and this is unfortunately something that's happening all around the world up to this day, we're having an economic crisis at hand, because this economic crisis is happening and people are trying to figure out, well, what is causing this problem? And no one is looking at the problem honestly and saying, the thing that we had in place, whether it's for our economy or whatever, is not working anymore. In some cases, it was supposed to be a temporary measure. It was not supposed to go on for this long. And because we didn't look at the temporary measure, we looked at it and we said, we didn't look at the temporary measure as a temporary measure. We looked at it and said, oh, I mean, we're working today. What if we just kick it down the road a little bit? Okay. Well, I only got 5 years, so let's kick it down the road a little bit more. And we keep kicking it down the road. And now, in many countries around the world, what we have is a situation where we've run out of road. There's no more road to kick. There's no more asphalt. It's just pebbles and dirt, maybe a little bit of grass. We passed the road. The can no longer go down. That's what it was like in 1930s Germany. I brought it back. In a time of recession, people are looking around saying, whose fault is this? Why are we in this situation? You got a bad deal. You didn't get out when you should have gotten out. You didn't take the opportunity to pivot. And someone comes along, and instead of telling them that, they feed into their ego. So instead of saying, hey, the problem is this. We are part of a structure that needs to change. If I can get as many people to just grab them by the shoulders and look at the structure with honesty and see how we are putting into the structure, we can then turn the structure around and we can fix this. No, that's not what happened. Instead, what you ended up with was persons holding on to a victim mentality and saying, I want to blame this on somebody else. Mentally, I cannot take it on to say that any of this is my fault. That I have played even, it may seem like a nearly insignificant part, but I played a part. And so, in that way, it is beneficial that they, back then, as well as us today, would be divided. Because what that person who goes up to them could say is like, it's not your fault. It's the fault of the homosexuals. They have a secret agenda. It's not your fault. It's the Romani, all them foreigners. It's not your fault. It's the Jehovah's Witnesses. They ain't real Christians. It ain't your fault. It's the transgenders. They make me feel uncomfortable. It's the old people. They clogging up the system, and they are no longer of any use. It's the people who have disabilities. They are a weight on society. It ain't your fault. It is the people who don't have a job. It ain't your fault. It's the young people. They're too violent. They need something to do. And I want you to know, all of those are reasons. All those are groups of people that the Nazis killed during the Holocaust. It wasn't just all of those people. Anyway, if we are divided up enough within society, because you can't go after everybody one time. You say, let's get these people over here first. There's a small minority. And then in the grand scheme of things, nobody can miss this 2% of people. And then, okay, let's grab this other 2%. Then we take off another 2% and just keep yanking and yanking and yanking until we've gotten rid of all the minorities. And then we at war with everybody internally. That's how you manage people. That's how you end up inside a Nazi Germany type situation. In Germany's case, they also spread themselves too thin, attacking two different, but that has nothing to do with the point I'm trying to make here. Were they doing things that were morally bankrupt? Yes. Also that. But had somebody said, hey, I know you think that the issue is the Jews, but I don't think the Jews is the reason that we are where we are. I know you think the issue is the Romani, the wanderers, the foreigners, but I don't think that's the issue. I don't think they're the ones causing the recession, the causing this inflation crisis. I know you think that the issue is homosexuals and transgender, and so you burn all the books and you burn the universities that they study them, but I don't think it's them. I think you just want to feed your children and live a normal life. Had somebody grabbed them and forced them to look honestly at the problem and at its source, they would have been in a very different position. But nobody grabbed them. Because the political force pushing the country in that direction was screaming, give us blood. So instead, you had people ready to grab the reins of power in that moment, say to this group, it's that group. Conversely, while we're being tricked into division, we think that, it's just that one person because we don't want to take any personal responsibility when it comes to anything that goes wrong. However, we do take personal responsibility if we win something. And suddenly it's like, oh, it's all in this person. But it doesn't work that way either. This is a group project. We are all in this together. Which brings me to Lovecraft Country. Lovecraft Country, it's a show. It came out on HBO. I'm going to say pre-pandemic. It's hard to tell it, but it was before the pandemic. All right, I liked it. It came out. It's named after H.P. Lovecraft, who was a horrible racist dog, and people like his work. He's where the Cthulhu mythos comes from, the weird flying squid face monster with the bat wings that you see in cartoons and stuff. That's his invention. But he was a devout racist. And when I say racist, I don't mean he was like racist in comparison to today. No, he was racist for back then. Back then, people were like, this guy really doesn't like black people. So when you get a piece of art where they're taking his name and taking the monstrosities and the monsters of his time and turning it on his head and making a story about blackness, you kind of have to smile and say, he would have hated it. He would have died to see his name being associated with this in any way, shape, or form. But the story of Lovecraft Country is about this black family, a very small family. They discover that the reason why black people are being oppressed in the Jim Crow era South at such levels is partially because there is a evil, racist network of white warlocks and wizards that are disenfranchising and taking advantage of black people through the use of magic. And the story is how this small family finds a way through hardship and pain and a little bit of time travel, and they're able to overturn and stop the evil white magic and remove magic from all the white warlocks. It was a good TV show. And so I was like, hey, I'd like to read the book that it's based on. And so I did. And here's the thing. It was different. Before I started reading it, I realized that the person who wrote the book was a white man. And the people who wrote the television show that was based on the book, but went in a slightly different direction, it was a black woman. It's a black crew, a black cast, black everything. There's a lot of seasoning in it. The show had a flavor to it that, unfortunately, the guy who wrote it, he couldn't get it because, it's not within his culture. Don't get me wrong. He did his research, but there's a flavor that you only get from being within the community. And they had the flavor down pat. It was great. However, here's the thing. There was something about the book that I felt, because it wasn't included in the TV show, it was a loss. And I wish that the showrunners had implemented it, but they didn't. And I wondered why. Because it kind of, like looking at it objectively, it's an indictment against the black community in America, but also generally the working class throughout the world. The issue is that in the show, when this small family, 6 people, become aware that not only is magic real, but evil magic is what is keeping black people down worldwide, but particularly in America and in the American South. They hatch a secret plot to fight the evil. But in the book, the moment the family finds out, they go to their community. At one point, they enlist the help of the local lodge branch to fight the evil. They find a great truth. They do not hold it to themselves. And as a result, some of the things that happen and befall them, the tragedies that happen in the TV show, don't actually happen in the book. And don't get me wrong, the book is like normal size. So there's still twists and turns and the book is still interesting. But it is only by the actions of the community, sometimes by characters who are not in the TV show, that we are made aware of what the problem is, the plan is, and in the end, that good defeats evil. There's an institution set up against us, and this is how we can overcome them. That's the only way that we see in the book them achieving any victory, because they went to their community. They worked together. They were not divided. And years later, That's the one thing that I do take away from Lovecraft Country. Together, we can overturn a world of sinister magic that's been turned against us. And I'm using magic as a metaphor for anything. It could be any wrong in the world. Together, we can overcome that. However, we've been indoctrinated by television to think we don't need all that. All we need is a small group of people. Don't tell nobody the secret because they can mess it up. And if you don't trust anybody, then my friend, we can't go nowhere. We need a community because we need mass political action to reorganize society. We have been lied to about the power of I. That is how we are divided. We are told that this division, there's no way around it. But it has to be. There has to be a way for us to get around this divide, because if we don't, it's not going to be like on television. We are going to be stuck. We've seen what happens in the real world when we are all divided and hard times come. We are going to turn against each other. And all I'm asking is that we turn towards each other, not against, towards, and say, hey, what's your issue? What's your problem? How can I help you? How can I assist? And then build towards that. Because I promise you that the person that you hate, the person that you despise, they probably have the same problems you have. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you don't have any enemies. I mean, you should strive to not have enemies. But let's say you have enemies. Maybe there's somebody inside your life that you hope they burst hell wide open. Cool. But there's nobody on these islands that you should not want to see win. You need everybody to win, even if you hate them, because the country is too small. We are too small a group. If somebody get leprosy, all us in problems. We need everybody to win. Everybody needs access to healthcare. Everybody needs access to education. Everybody needs access to nutritious meals that will not give them colorectal cancer in 10 years. Everybody needs access to shelter that is not just affordable, but sufficient. You can't have 11 people in a house that could barely hold one. You can't be paying $1,200 a month to live in a broom closet. Everybody needs these things, no matter how horrible a person they may be. And the only way for us to get those things is if we all agree that that's just the standard. We have to form community, and it starts with your family, but you got to expand outside of that. It could be your neighborhood, but we got to expand outside of that. We need community because that community is going to give us the political power to make the changes in society that will benefit us all. That all of us have an issue with. You want to know how we win? We win when we win. The bigger the we, the more likely we are going to win. It's going to take all of us. So I have to show up for the rights of people, even if them having rights will not directly impact me in any way, shape, or form. But if they have rights and I show up for them, it is easier for me to now convince them to show up for me. This might be the problem that unions have made. I'm gonna try to not lose you. Okay, all right? But I've had this thought rant in my head for years, so bear with me. Unions used to be a big deal because it made sense. And it used to be something to aspire to. I have been working in one form or the other since I was 13 years old. I have never been a part of a union. I've worked in giant corporations where there is no union for me to join. So the union doesn't impact me directly. Why should I care about these unions when all from the outside, from a distance, it seems that they do is clog up the system. They stop things from happening. They are shredding the strike. And they say, oh, we want our money. You broke, I broke too. But me marching for you ain't gonna get me paid better. Because the union fighting for the rights for their union members is supposed to, in reality, be them fighting for the rights of all workers. But we have been so divided that there are times where I'm like, why should I care about the hotel union workers? I only care about them when they threaten to strike. And the unions have separated themselves from each other and us. They used to have political might, but now it's like they want to use it every 5 years to try to force a little bit of this, a little bit of that, so they can remain in power as presidents of various unions. Anyway, some of these people, they're cool people. But at the end of the day, what are they doing to empower every worker in the country? Because, like, imagine if they helped every worker in the country to know their rights. If your political action is only used once every 5 years, then it ain't real. It's going to become weak because it's not really your power. What it is a weakness of the people who you're trying to force the hand of. Is it so hard, instead of having a bunch of old men bragging about having a joint Labor Day parade, instead having them show me how I could get the full extent of my rights? Like, most Bahamians don't even know what the labor laws are. They don't know where to go to complain about labor problems. Wouldn't it be great if the first time that I see a labor or union leader is not when they're on the news threatening industrial action? Wouldn't it be great if they are constantly with us, educating us? Because now they're part of the community. You know, there are people who don't know if their boss could just fire them at the drop of a hat. They don't understand what days they have off. They don't understand what a full work week is. I remember being on jury duty, and HR called me in and told me that I was lucky that the company was paying me my full salary. And I had to show HR the law. Now imagine, instead of me having to go dig through the Bahamas government website to instruct that woman on what was the right thing, I knew it because, for example, the taxi cab union had put together a series of PSAs explaining what the point is, had a series of lectures. I would see them in a different light. Imagine driving on the side of the road and you see a sign saying, "They can't fire you for being pregnant," brought to you by the Bahamas National Alliance and Trade Union. People are going to say, "Oh, that's interesting. What's that union about?" And then when you go out and strike, you have people who are not a part of the union saying, "Well, I support them." They might not march with you, or they might. But at the very least, they'll give you the grace and the space that you need to strike. As a sidebar, though, with the taxi people, let me just say, I support all unions, but my least favorite will be anything that has to do with taxis. That group does nothing for the average Bahamian, because you and I know, ain't no taxi will ever pick me up. Ain't no taxi coming to Garden Hills, ain't no taxi coming to Camp Road. But then you turn around and say, okay, well then I guess we need Uber in the Bahamas. We need some type of ride to share situation. You know they can get paranoid and say, "Oh, no, we can't have that," because then the tourists ain't gonna hire us. They can hire the ride share people because they cheaper. You guys used to have a purpose. And now it feels like you're just impeding progress. Please stop bringing up the general strike when 80% of the country was not alive when it happened. You make it difficult to root for you because what is your contribution to the group project? But again, we win when we win, and so I will still fight for you. Because the only way we are going to win is if we are a united we, and not a bunch of small we's. You have to want the rights for people that are not you. You have to want those rights to not be infringed upon. You want the rights of the migrant to be respected. You want the rights of gay people to be respected. You want the rights of women to be respected. You want, at the end of the day, all these rights to be respected. And yeah, Stephen ain't a gay woman migrant. So what is he talking about? Here's the thing. I don't know if you know this. I paw. And if I need other people to show up for the rights of poor people like me, how is that going to work if I never show up for them? How? Even worse, how is it going to happen if I am actively against their rights? You think they could show up for me when they gone? When we wipe them off the board? Now it's a smaller percentage of we protesting for our rights. We must demand from the people who have all the rights because they have all the money and all the power and they can do whatever they want. They have multiple passports. They have property inside and outside of the country. They are regularly in foreign countries. You wouldn't even know because they got private planes. We are saying, we are demanding that while we work for these people, that we get all the rights that are entitled to us. That when we are walking the streets at night, we have the rights that are entitled to us. That we have basic stuff, like a house to live in, food to eat, water to drink. Ain't nobody ask for nothing crazy. We ask for basic human rights and dignity. The right to go home and nobody bother you. Nobody be like, oh, I see you going inside the house. They kick down the front door. Oh, you got dreadlocks, so you must have drugs on you. Oh, too much people in this house, you must see a brother. We are asking for basic human rights and dignity. But the only way it seems that we can get it is that you got to get it for everybody else too. Join the line. Our rights extend as far as they encroach on somebody else's rights. So I'm not asking to teeth nobody's rights. I'm not asking to disenfranchise nobody's family. I'm saying we have to be in this together. And that is the only way that we are going to do it. And at the very least, if you can't stomach the idea of joining up for the cause, don't encumber it. Don't block it up. Don't actively go against it. Because you are trying to impress somebody who don't care about you. At the end of the day, the same people who don't like gay people, they don't like women. And the people who don't like women, they don't like poor people. And the people who don't like poor people, they don't like Haitians. And I promise you, if all of us knew who our daddy was, and who our daddy was, we'd know that we were somewhere on that list. We need community because you need mass political action to reorganize society. This has been Sidebar 103 to Be podcast powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna. True God still.
Tired of driving around from place to place just to get your car insured and licensed? Frustrated with the process of being back and forth from your insurance company to road traffic? Well, BMG Insurance Agents and Brokers just made insuring and licensing your motor vehicle as easy as 1, 2, 3. Step 1. Visit us at the Road Traffic Department, Section 1, Thomas A. Robinson Sports Stadium. At our office, you can purchase or renew your insurance or get your vehicle inspected. We at BMG Insurance Agents and Brokers represent major carriers. Step 2. See the professionals at Road Traffic to get your vehicle licensed. Step 3. Enjoy your day. Insure with BMG Insurance Agents and Brokers today, saving you time and money. Your one-stop shop for all of your insurance needs. Great rates, convenient, excellent service. For more information, call us at 322-2221.
So you want a space. But not just any space. You need something with a little more potential. So how about 1,000 square feet of room to play with? Superb audio and video production capability, digital LED wall, full lighting grid, and about 124 seats to accommodate a full studio audience with so many other features. Make us your home for your next concert, conference, and so much more. Honestly, The possibilities are endless. Here at ILTV Studios, we'd love to bring your next event to life. So what do you say? Do you want our space?